Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Multicultural Counseling and Advocacy class. I am Dr. Avalos, professor in the counseling program at UTPB, and I will be talking to you a little bit about what this class will comprise of. Talk a little bit to you about assignments, feedback, communication, and other expectations that you can sort of think about in regards to the class, the content, and maybe even things to look forward to and reflect on. So, first of all, the course is a requirement for both state and national accreditation bodies. What they're asking you to do is to look at people, pay attention to the stories that they bring. I think that one of the things that people will say, Dr. Avalos, I don't see color, sometimes I forget. It's important to see color because with that may come differences. Not always, but most of the time. And even when you can't see those differences, we know that we must, as counselors, not only pay attention and listen closely to what our clients are saying, but also to be self-aware. Am I behaving as a counselor in a way that might affect how this particular client is seeing the situation? Early on in the counseling program, we talk about the fact that because you are in the office, it's your space, you're called a counselor, of which we've learned a lot of people don't know what that means. You hold power in the room. And so sometimes people may respond to that power by simply accepting what it is that you give. For example, we've gone through education. We have our degrees up on the wall. So when someone comes in and you're sitting in your cushy chair, what must it feel like to a client? They are just as concerned about, what do you think of them? My counselor looks, speaks, behaves like this. What message is that sending? And a lot of times, because of that power, our clients won't tell us, because of the fact that we have to be aware of how people are perceiving us from the very beginning. That's one of those key dimensions or dispositional fitness to practice type constructs that we've talked about before, in being keenly aware of how people around me perceive my behavior. And if I can't say that because I'm short or have dark hair or a white streak or accidentally use a bad word or say your last name in Spanish, then what does that mean to the people in the classroom? It's the same sort of thing that you would find in a counseling office, but what's even more important is it's just one-on-one, and that can be more critical. You'll find in the literature that you're going to learn a bit about the different cultures, just some generalities that we make. Of course, you always have your 5%, people can do whatever they want because Michael Jordan's a whatever. All right, well, there's not a lot of Michael Jordans because it's Michael Jordan, right? It's him. Not every young black kid can be like him. For that matter, not any other brown or white kid can be like him either. So consider those things. Additionally, you'll see that in these various cultures, there are quite a few that will not use counseling services. And that there's a host of reasons why. But when it comes to being a counselor, we must advocate for the profession and advocate for clients that sometimes we don't even have. What do I need to do as a counselor to try and reach clientele that aren't coming to see me? What can I do as a counselor to make sure people who desperately need services are coming and that I'm making myself available to them? It's really easy to forget sometimes about these things, especially if you end up having a practice or you're at a school where you have your people. They're all I have the people from A to L, and those are my students, and those are the ones that I need to take care of. But even when looking at the students from A to L, are there populations that are not coming in? And be able to evaluate at your campus or at your practice, why not? And if they do come, fantastic, but do they stay? This will require for us to really reflect on our own worldview and on our own behavior. And like I said at the beginning, try and pay attention to the fact of because we have power in the room, that we've been probably thought as either some quagmire or some sort of like mystical person with powers and knowledge that our lives must be perfect just because we're counselors, and the impact that that can have in the counseling session, offices, regardless of where it is that you are. So you're going to be learning quite a bit of content on the different cultural groups, which is kind of fun, because you'll see that even for those particular clients who don't come to see us, sometimes there's cultural factors with it, not that don't have anything to do with us, but maybe a cultural component. For example, in my family, middle class Hispanic family, we kept quite a few of the traditional Mexican American background. But for us, I remember my grandmother would say, if you were having problems, you went to the church. You go to the church. But then as our family structure, socioeconomics changed, etc., it sort of became this more assimilated view of like, you don't tell people your problems. You don't talk about those things. You keep them to yourself. That sort of a thing. And then for others, it's like you just don't share. You'll find in some cultural groups, for example, like the African American groups, there may not be trust in systems. And to provide or to be vulnerable enough to open yourself up to this person, there may come this type of struggle with, why would you do that? Why would you tell someone outside of our family and culture that? Because then they can use it against you. And that can be part of the responsibility of advocacy in making sure that we can voice that among community groups that we may not have an opportunity to work with just because they don't come. But it doesn't mean that everybody doesn't experience issues. So from a very, very young age, we're taught how to categorize our world, right? So think about your parents, or even you with your own children, or your students in your classroom. Where are the squares? Where are all the squares? They're all over here. Okay, well, you'll find that kids begin to put all the purple ones over here and the round ones over here and the big ones and the small ones, sort of a thing. We ask them right away, what is this? Is it a puppy? Yes. What does the puppy say? Yes, that's a cow. What does the cow say? We'll say things like colors. What is this color? So from a very, very early age, we are taught to categorize our world. Why do we do that? It's to make sense of it. Think about walking into an unfamiliar scenario, whether it's a new class, whether it is a new job for that matter. You're going to a conference in a different state. What does it feel like to walk into a room? Pay attention to what you do. I have seen students, I've been a teacher now for I think it was over 23 years now, and I have become more keenly aware of students who will come in and immediately look for people that they know in the classroom. Think about what students might do when they don't know anyone in the classroom. Do they separate themselves out from the group? Sometimes that happens. As a teacher, often what I'll see is clumps of people. We've even had in our classes, because so many of our counseling and psychology courses are cross-listed, I've seen in classes from beginning until we are able to incorporate a friendship and become a unit, that sometimes the psychology students sit on this end and counseling students sit on this end, when as a professor I'm like, these are all my students. Why are they spread apart so far? You'll find some individuals who set themselves in the back and the side and way on the corner. The important thing is to pay attention to it. It may not have, but I recognize as a teacher that it may not have anything to do with me. The course, the content, what my students hope to learn by where they sit in the class. but it may be sending a message, not only to me in regards to their connection with other people, their comfortability in the situation, and also I must pay attention to how other students and that particular student or students are communicating with each other. What does that mean to them? That's something that you have to pay attention to. That I do it in a classroom, this would require you to do it in counseling as well. Where does the person sit? Am I too close? What is their body language doing? What is my body language doing? For those of y'all who have been in my classes, I can get a little excited. What might that look like to various cultural groups? Girl is just way wound up and excited. What part of that and where does that come from? And be self-aware. I'm keenly aware of the fact that I have high energy and what that might look like, not only across cultural lines, but ages as well. I can scare the children if I'm too excited. And it could also be too much for shy people, regardless of their age, and the elderly population. I may need to speak loud, but all of this is not always the best thing. You've got to pay attention to the whole person, all of it. And cultural diversity, their background and their belief system is almost the most important thing, because it will very much frame how an individual or a family feels about their situation, how they conceptualize the issue, how they believe or what they believe will fix it. It's all within there. And we're going to be taking a look at all of it. I want to make sure that you read the syllabus. Make sure that you pay attention to things like assignments, office hours, the grading policy. Please pay attention. The College of Education has a different grading policy in regards to how you assign the letter grade. So in normal classes, we would assign, or when I taught at undergrad or even in high school, the 90 to 100 was considered an A. A 90 to a 93 or 94 could be considered an A minus. You had an A and then your A plus. In the College of Education, we assign only A, B, C, and D. And our designators of what it is that actually counts as an A, B, or C is designated a little bit differently, as well as the fact that in graduate school, D's don't count. So I'm going to go back and show you on the syllabus what assignments is that, what this actual grade level is. So I'll be back in just a second, okay? Recognize that you can only have 2 C's in graduate school, and then for some students, they sometimes decide to go back and do it simply because it was a rough semester. We've all had them, and they want to go back and retake it. It was some for the grade, but sometimes too because I really feel like I missed some content. Remember, we're going to be working with people's lives, and so it's important to make sure that you have what you need to do so. I want to make sure and let you know a few things. We will have a face-to-face component in this class that will be done online. Because we're not meeting face-to-face doesn't mean that there still aren't questions, that there still isn't content that you might want to explore with me or in a group. So you will be receiving invitations of the various date and times for the online sessions that we'll have. We'll meet once a week for an hour. I will be up in Canvas waiting for people. What happens is you actually join, your picture shows up, you'll see me, and if anybody else joins, it's the same thing. You'll see everybody that is actually in the conferencing session. And what we can do are a variety of things. If you have questions about assignments, we can do that then. If you want me to elaborate on the content, we can do that. If you are confused by a particular model of what it means in practice, we can so do that too. What's most important, you always remember for me, is the content is critical. But I also know that, and I want to make sure and cover all of it. But for me, for those of y'all who've taken classes with me, it's extremely important for me to know that you can translate the information to life. It's great if you can have an A in every class, but if you can't translate that into actually working with people, then that can cause problems. So know that this online conferencing session, the sessions that we have, we can use for that. And sometimes you just need to maybe check in, maybe you have a grade, etc., that you'd like to ask about. If there are other people in the session, I ask that you don't talk about your grade specifically. We can meet up in another session by ourselves later, or you can always come and see me in my office hours. If you decide to come see me during office hours, please let me know that you're coming. Sometimes I'll get students who are just stopping in, so we'll have conversations and you've been waiting out there to really talk about something that needs to happen in class. And if you let me know you're coming, I can put you down on my calendar to make sure that I give you the appropriate time to do that. Other methods of communication are for email. Email is probably the best way to get in touch with me. I do answer my phone in my office, but I'm not always here. So if you want to get to me quickly, you send me an email. I usually answer them within 24 hours. I actually answer them a lot sooner. But what I'd like to make note is this. The assignments for this class, for online classes, can sometimes be midweek and sometimes can be the weekend. I want to make sure that you are aware that I won't always be available in the weekend. Of course, if I'm reading email, I'm up here on campus, etc., I'll be sure to respond to your email. But I can't promise that will always happen. So my suggestion to you is to make sure that you are reading the assignments, that you know when they're due, and that you're asking me questions about those during the week when we see each other, when we have our conferencing session, that you use those opportunities to ask those questions, because of the fact that I may not always be available, and you may not want to call me on Sunday morning about an assignment that takes tons and tons of time, and because it kind of says that you've never even looked at it before. Of course, that may happen. Heck, that may happen to me, and I may have done it. I'm almost positive. But just kind of remember, reflecting on how my behavior is perceived by others. Grading. The College of Education gives 2 weeks for faculty to grade. So I will try my hardest to get it done before then. There are sometimes in the semester, because of additional meetings or a conference or student needs, etc., that it doesn't happen in the 1 week time frame. But I will keep up with that. Make sure that you are aware of the fact that you will find comments, not just the small comments under your grade, but comments within your paper. Be sure that you're looking at those. Most of the time I tell students who haven't had me before is to let me grade your assignments within the time frame for each model before you start going ahead. And the only reason I say that is because sometimes there will be corrections that need to be made in subsequent assignments. And if you don't know what that feedback is, what ends up happening is you've gone so far, you've completed some assignments, and some things you haven't addressed properly. So make sure that you're looking at those comments, that even if you get a strong grade, if I saw something at the beginning, I said, okay, I'm gonna give him a chance to fix this, and I'll make a note. If that continues to not be addressed, your grades will suffer, because I'm expecting for you to pay attention to that and learn as you go along. The assignments that will be submitted should be in APA format. I have that in regards to the assignments that we have in the class. I will be providing video links to my YouTube channel so that you can go and watch information and look at information specifically geared towards assignments in this class. For example, the chapter questions, I'll be able to explain a little bit about what those are, what the expectations are, and why do we have those expectations. You will have exams in this class outside of the additional assignments, just to briefly talk about them. We haven't always given exams in all our classes, but I think with conversations with colleagues as well as in our program, because of the fact that you will have to take a comprehensive exam to get your certification, as well as take your national counseling exam, I thought it would be most helpful if we started to include exams in each class, but also include exams that are similar to the content and similar to the structure of the questions that you'll have on these exams. It kind of makes sense, don't you think? Get some practice along the way instead of going all the way through the program and then all of a sudden have to take a test of which is not format of any of your assignments that you've done. So that'll be coming. Let me make sure that I've talked about everything. In the online courses, especially when we have this long period of time, we get the full, 13, 14 weeks that we have in a semester. Make sure that you pay attention to the due dates on for each of the assignments. But the first set of assignments in Module 1, you had to get them done within the first week of classes. You will have two weeks to complete assignments in subsequent modules. Make sure that you are aware of the assignments that you have. I've given you 2 weeks, not because there's nothing for you to do, but rather to give you the time to answer your questions and complete your assignments in a thorough and reflective and deep manner. So make sure you're paying attention to the various assignments. For example, some assignments will have a discussion, a question for y'all to discuss in Canvas, and then there will be a project that needs to be done. You may want to take care of some of the assignments that may not take so much time so that you can focus on your assignment that's going to require more time. Additionally, you'll have your modules that you have chapter questions and maybe an exam. You may not want to worry about your chapter questions and give yourself a week or more to study for the exam. So use that time productively, not too simply, oh, I've got 2 weeks, I'll wait till the weekend to get it the weekend before the due date to get it done, but to reflect on the content. Even if you're not completing the assignment yet, you've been reflecting on it and you've been talking to your peers about it. What are their ideas? We will have then 2 opportunities to talk about it in the online conferencing sessions, etc. And just to make sure that you're prepared and have the information you need. So all of that being, please read your syllabus, holler if you have questions, and remember that I will be contacting with you to give you dates and times of our one-on-one meetings or face-to-face meetings, okay, that are going to be held through Canvas. I'm excited to see what you're learning and what challenges you're finding. Challenges bring growth, and so we'll have lots of it in this class. Don't hesitate to holler, and I look forward to seeing how things go. All right? Bye.